And I want to thank everybody for coming. It's great to see everybody. And so I'll start with welcoming you to our Mindful Moments, which is Wednesdays, 7:30 Mountain Standard Time. And again, we upload this onto our YouTube channel that you can find in our links or our highlights in Instagram. Today, we're so excited to introduce Shelly. She's just amazing. Aww. And she's a confidence coach who works primarily with high performance women in leadership and coaching roles. She specializes in helping women break down the limiting beliefs, silence the negativity and the self-talk, build confidence, improve relationships at work, home, and especially with themselves. So, so important. Shelly's latest program, The Boundaries Queen, She Who Is Respected, which we will get into more, is a mini mastermind program that is designed to empower women to establish and maintain strong boundaries, both professional, personal, and helping them reclaim their time, energy, and self-worth. So that is Shelly, and that's who we are so blessed to have with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. And these ladies are just, I just met them recently, and you guys are wonderful. I love what you guys are doing too. And we just clicked. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Wish you guys were a little closer.
With your tribe.
I know. I wish we lived closer too.
No. So tonight we're going to be asking some questions. If there is questions, then you can put them in a chat. We'll see if we can add some of those in. And I think, Chandra, do you want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. So it's very nice to see you ladies tonight. So Shelly, for our first question, what do you think boundaries are such, or why do you think boundaries are such an important topic for women, especially leaders and high achievers?
Well, that one is especially as women in general, not even just the high achievers, but them too. We take on so many roles in our lives, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's with friends, and we tend to just pile more and more on our plate until our plate runneth over. And if we don't step back and kind of recognize that we, as high achievers and as, leaders, we also need that time too. But what we tend to do is have these higher expectations for ourselves than we do for other people. And when people ask us to do things, oh yeah, okay, sure. And part of it is because we're flattered, right? Because we appreciate the fact that someone looks to us as capable and dependable. And that's something that builds our confidence because we want to be seen that way to our peers. But what we lack is that ability to recognize when we keep saying yes instead of when we really should say no, when we don't delegate, when we see ourselves as a weakness if we have to ask for help, or we have sometimes control issues where we feel like, nah, they're not going to do it as well as I could, so maybe I just need to take that on even though it's not, something that is a higher priority with what we already have going on. And that's why it's really good for us to recognize that if we can't recognize what we need for our own boundaries, we're going to burn out, we're going to get overwhelmed, we're going to get stressed, and we're not going to take care of ourselves the way that we need to, and we can't pour from an empty cup. So
that's also so true.
I can say definitely that I've experienced that sometimes in my life. So,
and I can as well.
Yeah, it's always something I'm really consciously working on. And I think it's like, you don't just achieve it.
Nope.
I think it's something that over time it grows, right? And you're learning of your boundaries and what they look like.
It's unfortunately a never one and done. It's that constant work that we will always be doing. And hopefully we're always doing it because, like you said, as we grow, we're going to still be hitting different boundaries, though. They look different, but they're still there.
Absolutely. And we go
So
into so
true.
many different like situations, right? And different places in our life and connect with so many different people that our boundaries look different in those places too.
Definitely.
So, how can somebody identify if their boundaries are too weak or if they're too rigid?
You, you feel it. If you take the time to kind of sit with yourself and recognize, and the biggest test I always say is when things, like when they say, like when crap hits the fan, right? And you've got your day planned and it's like really tight, your schedule, you've got everything that you have to get done. And when you end up feeling too stressed,
Mm-hmm.
or when something changes, you feel overwhelmed and you panic, that's when you know you don't have that peace and that balance. Because when you
Right.
do have those boundaries, when things change, you can pivot and you take whatever time you need to breathe and be like, okay, how can I make this work? Because we're all wired for success,
Yeah.
right? And when things come at us, like most of us, we're like, okay, what can we move around? What can we change? And we're really good at implementing something different, at making those changes. But when you can't do that smoothly, or when it feels really tense, and then you just start feeling and then you're easily irritable and you start snapping at people, that's how you can tell it's either, too rigid or too weak, because you don't
Absolutely.
Yeah.
have that balance.
Yeah. I agree with you. And
Yeah.
and those and even though that, and I feel what you're saying because I feel it like in my soul with the fact that I've been there, and put too much on my plate. But instead of again giving things up, you just power through it, and that's so not healthy.
But we got to have grace for ourselves too, though, because it's
Yeah,
interesting that we are more forgiving to other people than we are to ourselves. Like, we are our own worst critics, right? Again, we hold ourselves
absolutely.
to a higher standard that is unrealistic.
Yes, that is so true.
Absolutely.
And so for our next question, what are some simple tips women can start implementing right away to set better boundaries?
The first thing, like instinctually, I would want to say make sure that you carve out time for yourself, but that's easier said than done. So, really,
Mhm.
what you want to do is you want to start with self-reflection, acknowledging and really kind of sitting with yourself. What is it that you need? Because you could set the time aside that, fine, say 20 minutes every day, I'm going to do that. 20 minutes earlier in the morning, I'm going to wake up so I have me time. But if you don't know what to do with that time because you're not really aware of what it is that you need for those boundaries, what's going to give you energy, what's going to give you peace,
Yeah.
that's why you need to start with that first. And the other thing I'd say is start small, because you want a habit stack. So you want to do that one little thing so that way it's sustainable, it becomes a habit, and it's easier to start building on top of that one little thing, because change is hard as it is. But if we try to change everything all at once, it's like that diet in the beginning of the year, the workout plan. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're all gung ho and I got the new clothes and the membership. And then by mid January, February, you're like, it's not going
Yeah.
Yeah.
to work.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
That
yep,
happens a
Small
lot.
sustainable goals is what's like, it's just small approximations towards your bigger goal, right? And they'll get you there.
exactly. It's funny how they say the fastest way there is the slow way.
Yes,
And
Yeah.
absolutely.
before you know it, you don't even recognize it, right? Like, okay, wow, I've been eating salads like all month long and I feel great. And I've been going on my walks, it's those little things. And then all of a sudden it's just habit and it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Um, how can somebody,
Did it just freeze for me?
I think, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I think it might have just froze for Emma. So if it freezes a little bit, I'll finish asking her question. Okay, maybe she doesn't have the reception. So what she was saying is, how can someone balance being compassionate and still manage to uphold their boundaries?
Well, first is recognizing that compassion and boundaries can be simultaneously done. It's not in either or.
Yeah.
So with what we would, what I've kind of worked with people as far as having the compassion side as well as your boundaries, it's all in the communication. And it depends on the situation. So it's kind of hard to say specifically, but for if I'm going to make a general statement, like know your audience, number one, but it's in how you communicate. So knowing who it is that you're trying to be compassionate for and doing those I statements. So usually where compassion is needed is somebody that's either feeling vulnerable or they've got lower self-esteem or there's some kind of vulnerability that they have where they might take something personally and kind of flip the script and make it sound like, it's you're attacking them. So I would use I statements and be like, I see where you're coming from and I totally understand this. I need to have set boundaries so that I can help you better.
Okay.
So
you would just straight out say that then?
What's that?
So you would just straight out say that, like when you say your I statements?
Yes. So like
Okay.
the I statements, you're acknowledging, I see what, and because they want to be seen and they want to be heard. So acknowledging who it is that you're trying to have the compassion for so that they feel recognized with whatever problem or issue they're having. But then also the I statement saying, but this is what I need so that I can better serve you or so that I can be there for you for whatever you're going through.
Yeah.
Because usually the boundaries are someone is overstepping and they're manipulating or monopolizing your time or your energy or your efforts. So that's what I've come into contact with as far as the people that I work with. Those are kind of the boundaries that they need to set. And it's like, well, how do we do that? But their feelings are going to be hurt. And so the communication part is huge. And again, it looks different for everybody depending on what it is that their background is, what experiences, and the way that they view whatever they're going through.
Yeah. No, for sure. I love that. I love that. Sometimes I struggle with that too, like how to be compassionate and not hurt someone's feelings, but also have your boundaries, right?
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
And like I said, knowing your audience is a big one because, some things will work for somebody that won't work for someone else. So,
and
especially if they have triggers.
Yeah, that makes it even more of a challenge. If they do have triggers and you are kind of, triggering them in any which way, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And how do you think setting boundaries actually improves our connection with ourselves and with the relationship of others?
Ooh, that's a good one. So kind of that whole self-reflection and knowing what you need for your own boundaries helps you understand what you're going to need to do so that way you can be in your own control of your feelings, right? Because we can't control other people. We can't control their responses. We only have control over ourselves. So when we start with us and knowing what we need to have that peace, when we have those boundaries and understanding of what we need, then we come from a place of emotional resilience. So think of it, if you are at peace with yourself and there's somebody that you see that's like stressing out and then they start attacking you, verbally or not physically, but verbally attacking you or making, comments about how you XYZ and like undermining all the efforts that you have, you don't take that on, right? It's that patience with yourself and then patience with them where you have more patience when you have that emotional resilience. And then you don't have to retort back. You don't, respond with petty for petty, right? And then you're able to communicate better with them. But the biggest piece with those setting boundaries with yourself is that you're able to give grace and patience to other people. And so when they say things and I've had people that I've worked with where, relationship wise, right? So they are working with a coworker that no matter what they ask for, it's always, yes, don't accept that emotional gift. They will attack you or they will, they'll snap at you. And it's like, and it could be something like, hey, here's that report. Well, it took you long enough or whatnot. And you just smile, and like, you don't let it affect you. And that's that whole thing of, if someone gives you a gift that you don't want, who owns the gift? And that's the same thing with their anger. If they're trying to because anger, misery loves company.
Right.
But if you just don't accept it, you're like, you know what? I'm sorry you're in a bad mood. I hope your day goes better. Like,
it's kind of
you
knowing like where you end and they begin, right?
Exactly.
Having a very clear line there.
Yep.
So that their projection is not coming on you, because you can't carry somebody else's stuff.
Exactly. And that's why it helps with relationships, because when you have your own boundaries, you're able to deal with other people's stuff.
Absolutely.
And just let it sit with them, sometimes they are just not in a place where they just want to be angry. And you're like, oh, okay. But you've got that, you've got that self-love, you've got your boundaries. You're like, my boundary is I'm not going to let your energy penetrate mine.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
I'm okay. And I don't have, you don't have to be happy. That's fine. That's you. But I choose to be happy. I choose my emotions. I have control over that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that. So we have another one. What are some misconceptions that you think women have about setting boundaries? And I think we kind of have talked a few of them, but I think it's harder for women too, because there's the societal expectations, that.
And I think part of it is, number one, like I was saying before, how we have these high expectations, unrealistic expectations of ourselves that we don't have for other people. And then I think the other part of it is we do sometimes put too much concern on how other people see us. And when you're trying to play the script of, okay, I have these high expectations for myself, and but how are other people going to see me if I put up these boundaries, or if I say no to whatever it is that's being asked of me? And that extends not only in the workplace, because I think sometimes where we're trying to make ourselves known in the workplace and climb the corporate ladder, and I personally do feel that women have to work twice as hard for half the recognition as a man, but that's just where I come from. That's what I have seen and have personally experienced, and have had, people that I've worked with having those same experiences. So
I do agree.
We feel like, okay, well, we can't say no, because if we say no, then I'm going to be, looked over, and they're going to go for Bob or Joe, or, somebody else that can go golfing with the guys. And, we struggle to connect because we don't want missed opportunities. And we already feel like there's, that gap and that disconnect for our abilities to be seen and heard and valued as much as our male counterparts. And so I think that's the biggest misconception, is that we think of it as a weakness, and I think sometimes hold on to more control than we really need to. And we do that to our detriment. So
I totally agree.
I think, I absolutely agree with that. Sorry, no, we just have sometimes some technical difficulties, but it's all
well,
good.
There was a phone call that came in, and I was trying to click on decline.
I don't know, my phone just shut down and I had to restart.
Okay.
Anyways, but so I know that for everyone here, we're going to be putting all the contact information for Shelly into our YouTube. So when you go there, please click subscribe. It's free to support. Shelly has her YouTube going as well. It'd be great if you wanted to support that too. So all that information will be there. But can you give us a little bit of information about your course?
Yes.
About your mastermind?
Yes, I am still in the process of writing it out, and it's going to be released in October. So it's currently discounted for $100 off up until I get it completed. But it really is going to cover all the different things that we need to know, and it's self-paced. So it's 4 recordings and some and some worksheets and checklists and some meditations too, because those are always good as well. But it's really about, how do you define what you need personally. So, some self-reflection, and then also some guidance and some scripts on ways to set those boundaries and assert yourself in a way that's going to be received as, I don't want to say necessarily a power play, but where you are empowering yourself. And I think the other part of it is us as women, we fear that if we start putting down these boundaries and we try to put ourselves in that position of having power over our own lives, that it's being seen as we're being a bitch, right? It's like, oh, she thinks that she's so much better. And it's not about that. So it's how do we show up so that way we can have these boundaries and be in our own power without being sucked into that negative talk that people are viewing us this way and those belief systems.
And that kind of goes back to not taking on those projections, right? When
Exactly.
people are upset about a boundary, they're like, oh, this is kind of new. And they say, you have a lot of people that you meet in your life, and some people will grow with you and some people will go, right? So,
yes.
I mean, that's the way it
a
is.
Season and a reason.
Exactly. That's it. So I think that also having those boundaries and setting that is a way to strengthen your relationships and to see who is there really rooting for you and standing by you, right?
Exactly. And some of that is that control of being okay when people leave.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing where sometimes we feel like, oh, somehow we did something wrong, and it's not that we did anything wrong. And sometimes energies just don't match, and you can't force it. So when you try to force it, it just is going to feel for everybody.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I posted something in my stories. I think it was maybe yesterday, maybe today, I don't know, they run together, but it said something to the fact that, cutting off toxic people or cutting off those people that aren't healthy for us is the highest form of self-love.
I saw it. Yes.
We are,
yes,
because we're loving
absolutely.
ourselves, right?
Yep. And here's the thing, there's so many people out there, if you've got somebody in your life that doesn't add a good benefit to it and it's only giving you negative energy, what are you losing?
Right.
You're losing bad energy, right? And I don't know if you guys have heard the 80-20. So it's like surround yourself 80% with people that give you energy and that add to your life in a good way, and no more than 20% of the people that, because we can't avoid it altogether, right?
Yeah.
So no more than 20% of your life that you're going to allow that kind of energy in your space.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because, we don't have choices all the time, but monitoring our times, or even being, we talk a lot about being mindful because of our mindful moments, but as being mindful is in, are you in a place at that point in time to be with that person, right? Like, where is your energy? And it's doing those self check-ins too that I think are really important.
That makes me think of how when I have better boundaries is when I'm feeling more confident, and when I'm not feeling good about myself, like maybe something isn't going right in my life with, something that I'm working on or whatnot. And you kind of start feeling down. It's almost like, why do you get sick? When your immune system is down. When do you let toxic people in, or when do the boundaries come down? When you're not feeling good about yourself, when you don't have that confidence and self-love. And so it's recognizing, okay, you know what? I probably shouldn't be around so-and-so because I know that energy is something that's going to bring me down, and I just don't want it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any questions in the comments? Do you guys have any questions that you want to throw out?
I don't know if I can see the comments.
I need glasses to see the comments. Oh, the last one was, don't accept the emotional gift. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't accept that one, right? Just give it a second and see if there's anybody. So how long is your discount on for your program?
It's until October. Okay. So my goal is to have it by at least the first week of October, but until it's actually really completed, that discount will be in place.
Okay.
Someone does have a question. How do we as a woman politely say no, especially when it comes to family?
Ooh, that one's a hard one, and it kind of
Mhm.
depends on how, there's a difference between saying no to family. Like, is it inside your home? Is it your child? Is it a parent that lives with you? Is it a spouse? Is it somebody that lives outside the home, like with in-laws or adult children that don't live with you anymore? So if it's about something that is not in your internal home that's living with you, a lot of
Mhm.
times, you know, what I suggest is just being upfront, but being firm but loving.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then you also have to think about how it's going to be received, like being upfront and firm. Are you okay if they get mad? And that's the other part too, because with family,
Yeah.
that they're going to get upset. But again, it's like not taking it to that next level of, well, they're going to tell so and so, and then all the family's going to get mad at me. Well, you know what? If that happens, and that's going to protect my peace, and what it's doing is the domino effect of eliminating, like you said, the toxic
Yeah.
people that you don't need in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think, support is reciprocal, right? So if you're willing to help them, but you have boundaries, they need to be willing to accept those boundaries and work within those as well. So it's kind of a give and take in all of our relationships.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, though, when family constantly asks you and takes advantage, and then when you start putting those
Mm-hmm.
boundaries up, somehow they find another way to get it figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the truth.
So that's the other
That is
thing.
so
That's the
true.
lie that we tell ourselves, is like, oh, we have to help this family member because we're the only ones that will. And when you put those boundaries in, you find out, wow, they were able to figure, because we, like I said, we are success driven, we are goal oriented, we will figure out something.
Yeah.
But when you
Yeah,
keep saying yes, they're going to keep coming back.
exactly.
That
And
is
be like,
so
you're
true.
more resourceful than I thought.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
so
And
true.
I think in a way that's good because hopefully that will empower them, right? Being like, oh yeah, like building that self-confidence in them that they can actually do it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
They can figure things
Exactly.
out. And Ruth said, what about adult children?
Adult children, it's very similar. So, I mean, like, I have a situation with like my adult son that he says that he's not trying to manipulate whatever it is he's asking, but he's also not upfront. So I guess those conversations of intention, that's one thing that I love to teach, is when you have those hard conversations, you start off that conversation with, my intention is, and just kind of set that goal right there
Yeah.
at the start. So that way there's less confusion. And then if it's going to be a fight, it's going to be a fight no matter if it's at the front or the end of the conversation. But you just eliminate all that extra time by getting it out of the way to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
I see Ruth also asked how long the course is.
It's self-led, so it depends on, there's 4 courses, and they're going to be about a half an hour to 40 minutes each. And so they're recordings, so you just go through it however long it takes you. If you want to watch it at 1.5 or 2x, that's fine too. I do that sometimes, but then I'm like, oh wait, hang on, pause, rewind, and like, wait, oh, okay, so.
So are those
Oh,
materials that are only set for a certain period of time once you buy the course, or do you always have access to those materials once you've bought that?
Oh, it's yours for lifetime. So, yep,
Okay,
once you buy it, it's access for whenever you need it.
beautiful.
oh,
You can
awesome. I
And then,
see Ruth
you
asked the
can
same
put that
question that
on
you
at
did.
night for some osmosis, right? While you're
and then
sleeping.
also for the people that buy it prior to it being actually available, I'm also offering a 1-hour one-on-one coaching session with me. So if there's something that you want to bring to the table that you kind of need some work with, I'd be happy to help you work out that.
And you definitely
Okay.
want to jump on that because it's amazing.
Yes, she is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tanya said, great for those of us that need the reminders and practice. Yes,
And
most
remember, it'll
definitely.
always be a practice. It'll be forever practicing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Forever
it's
practicing
forever
and
practicing.
growing, and as things change, you're like, no,
Me,
that's got to change a
me
little
too,
bit,
though. Like,
right?
I think I got something down, and then something will happen where it'll re-trigger, and I'm like, oh, okay, I got to do it
Yeah,
again.
Yeah.
absolutely. But wait, but it talks about like we can have like fun in the journey. It's not just the destination, not just the boundary itself, but having fun and learning about
Exactly.
Yeah,
ourselves and how we can do
along the
that, right?
way.
Amen.
Hmm.
Yes,
And you're
absolutely.
learning and growing.
Perfect. Well, we'll ask one more time quickly if anybody else has any more comments
Someone
or
just
questions.
said, someone just asked, how do we set boundaries in workplaces?
For those, well, again, first reflect on what it is that you need, because I will say some people that I've worked with, the environment that they were in, it didn't matter what the boundaries were. It was a toxic
Yeah.
environment. So then that's when you got to make that decision. Is it worth my mental health and my mental peace? But for work boundaries, as long as you are doing what you're required to of your job, and I guess I need a little bit more context on that. Um, you know, certain things, it is okay to say no, but
Mhm.
I
yeah, it's kind of
absolutely
hard
agree.
to
I
answer
agree with
that
that.
with not knowing the context of what kind of boundaries at work. Because is it
Yes.
like a boss is asking you to come in earlier? Is it, is it a coworker that constantly has you do their job for them, like helping cover, you
Yeah.
know, or that coworker that constantly talks to you and then you get in trouble because you're not as productive, but they won't shut up and leave your
Yeah.
cubicle.
Yeah.
How do you nicely say, let's take this on break, or, hey, let's
Yeah.
schedule a lunch break later because
Absolutely.
I got to get this done.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I've done that before too. And I know that sometimes when they've given more um, information, like they're like wanting to give me more work than what I can handle, I will say, I can't do
Good
this.
for
These are the
you.
things that I'm doing, and this will like meet whatever requirements if there's someone else that can do this. And I mean, I will say that I've become pretty proficient at doing that at work,
Good.
and they know. So yeah, I just had another task taken off my list last week because I said no. I said I'm at
Good.
that level and I
Well,
can't.
That's
see what happens with
good.
those high achievers like you at work is that they use you because they know you'll keep taking on all the work,
I
right?
used
And
to. I
it's
used
right.
to.
And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
just give it to her. She's a whiz at that. She could do it so fast. And then you're like, hey, I can do so fast, but then the number of things you've put on my
Yeah.
plate, that there's
Yeah.
not enough hours in the day.
Right.
Yeah. You can only
Exactly.
handle
So
so much.
yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Well, we want to thank you so much, Shelly, for coming.
Yeah. Thank
Yes,
you
no,
so
thank
And
much.
thank
we,
you for having me. This has been awesome. I love it. And
yes,
like I said, you
so
ladies are
fun.
just amazing too. Like, oh,
Oh,
Oh, well,
much.
you're welcome to come back too as you get the course done, or as other courses come up, or you have things. Definitely, stay connected with us because we
I
want to be
will.
able to support you.
Thank you. And me with you guys too. I love the work that you guys are doing as well.
Aw,
Awesome.
so thank you. I'm happy to be connected.
Yes. All right. Well, everybody have a great evening. Thank
Thank
you.
Yeah.
you.
Have a wonderful
Thank you,
evening,
everybody.
everyone.
Go
Sending lots of
check
love
out
and light.
go check out our YouTube. It'll be there tomorrow. Take
Awesome.
care.
Have a wonderful night,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.